Welcome to Autism Weekly, the podcast that discusses autism news, current events, and inclusion. Each week, we welcome a guest to the program to share their unique perspective and expertise as it relates to the fascinating world of autism. I'm your host, Jeff Skibitsky. I'm the founder and president of ABS Kids. I've been in the field of autism and applied behavior analysis as a clinician and advocate for nearly 2 decades. Making friends and building meaningful relationships is an important skill for both neurotypical and neurodivergent children. So how can parents and clinicians help? One way is to provide opportunities to be around other kiddos around the same age with similar interests. Today, we're excited to talk with Emily Bruce about Playdates. Emily is a board-certified behavior analyst and founder of the app PeerKnect. She offers firsthand insight onto how beneficial social interactions are to children with developmental delays like autism. She worked to develop PeerKnect for parents and therapists to facilitate playdates based on the child's age, diagnosis, gender, and location. Emily, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jeff. I truly am honored to be here today. I appreciate you inviting me.
It is my pleasure. And one thing that I'd love to be able to kind of point out is I wish this product existed just a few years ago. My family has gone through several moves, and having a tool like this just sounds ideal for any family that's looking to be able to build community. But maybe you can give us a little background. What's the origin? How did you come up with PeerKnect?
Well, so I'm a mom and I have two older teenagers. And I kind of came into the field of ABA later in life. So my children were in elementary school, early middle school, went to graduate school, got my master's in psychology, and then kept going further to sit for the BCBA exam. So I took all of my ABA classes and, worked as an RBT, which is a registered behavior technician under BCBAs in therapy practices. And, as I started my experience hours as an RBT and then eventually a BCBA, I just kept coming up with this common question from parents. Hey, can you connect me with somebody else for a play date for my child? Can you connect with some of your colleagues? Do you have any friends who have children who are my child's age so that we could work on play skills and social skills? This was a common question, a common theme with every family that I worked with in the different therapy practices where I worked. And then when I started my own small therapy practice. And the answer was always like, hey, I'm going to try, or no, I don't know anybody that's your child's age. And I would try to get connected with my colleagues. And the only way we could do that, even if we were working in a clinic, because sometimes therapists weren't there, they weren't on site, they might be doing support somewhere else in the community or in a school. So it was always via text or via email. And so I might have a 5-year-old on Tuesday that I'm working with in a certain area of town, but they don't work with their 5-year-old until Thursday, and they're on the other side of town. So it was just like, using ABA talk, it was, my behavior was put on extinction, and so are all of my colleagues' behaviors being put on extinction because it's never reinforced, right? Mm-hmm. So we're trying to get connected, but it never happens. So we're never getting any kind of reinforcement. So we just kind of give up. And then we go through our days doing, our discrete trial training. We're working, doing that one-to-one therapy. And we're just kind of doing the same thing, going through the motions every day, doing the same thing with our kids, instead of trying to find those play dates, instead of trying to find opportunities to build those social skills. So common theme, I was like, it would be so wonderful if there was an application or some kind of program out there that would do this. So I had the idea for years. But when I started my own therapy practice, I was hired by a local school district to work with a kiddo who happened to be the same age as my son, who at the time, he was an early teenager at that time. So, several years had gone by, and started my own therapy practice. And this school district wanted me to help this kiddo with his social skills. So we were only going to work for a few sessions during the summer, but I was like, okay, let's go to some community places. So one day I had to pick my son up from band camp, and logistically I could not get him back home. So I was like, listen, buddy, you got to go with me to this community outing, and you can play your Switch. We were going to a community center. So I was like, you can play your Switch or sit by the pool, whatever you want to do while I'm working with my client. So I get to this community center, and my client's mom knew that my son was with me. And my son is typically developing, so he doesn't have any diagnoses. But when he was younger, when he was in elementary school, he did have some anxiety, and he really had a hard time finding friends and making friends. So a lot of times he would eat lunch alone, or he would go on play dates. So I kind of knew what these parents were going through. It's really hard to watch your child, experience loneliness or isolation or anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we're at this community center, and my client's mom says, "Hey, can your son join us?" I was like, "Yes, thank you. I'm so happy you asked that question because that's really what I wanted." So we go in this little room. I set them up. There's this big screen TV. They're playing Super Mario Brothers. My son was awesome. He was prompting. He was like, push this button. Don't let these guys kill you. Don't fall off the cliff, all that fun stuff. And my client had a lot of social skills deficits. And so, he was listening, but he wasn't really engaging with my son. So I would prompt them and just kind of help out a little bit. So my client's mom leaned over to me while we're watching these boys, and she said, "This is the first time he's ever had a play date, ever."
Oh,
and
wow.
it's a young teenage male. And she said, "I've tried through Facebook, Meetup, I've tried through church, and I've tried through school, and I've never been able to get him connected." And it was in that moment, I'm watching these two boys, same age. My son had been through something similar when he was younger. And because of, educating myself with a master's in psychology and then all of the ABA, behavior analysis that I learned, I was able to help him overcome some of those, those symptoms associated with anxiety. He's got a wonderful friend group. And I was like, you know what? Every child deserves that. So I want every child to be able to find a friend group, find a friend, socialize. And so I was like, okay, I've had this idea for this application. Nobody else is going to make it. So I contacted one of my very good friends who happened to be working on his PhD in software engineering. And I was like, "Do you think that we can meet and I can tell you about an app that I have an idea for, and maybe you can develop it?" So we got together. I shared the idea with him, and he was like, "Yeah, let's do this." And so that was 3 years ago. It took us 3 years to get to a place where we were final, because we were going to be web and app based, and then we went to app based only. Over the years, we added some features like it's a place where businesses that host sensory friendly events or inclusive events can post their events, and also disability organizations. So there's a lot of disability organizations or even therapy practices that host events, so they can post their events on the application. And so families can find inclusive events for them to engage with the community near them. So that was something we added. And then, of course, COVID hit. So we added the virtual playdate option. So it's not only in person, but you can search for or post an in-person or virtual playdate. So it kind of evolved, even adding a feature for parents to post like a birthday party or a holiday party or a karaoke party or whatever kind of party they want, where they can say, "I want 4 people to attend," or "I want 20 people to attend." So it takes a long time to build technology. I thought it would take like a few months, but I was wrong. So
Yeah.
my partner always would get frustrated with me. He's like, "Emily, this is going to take time." But yeah, so it's huge endeavor, but it was just a labor of love for both of us. For me, because of my clients, I always brought that mom energy. I want them to have the same opportunities and experiences that my own children had. And so that's where it came from.
It sounds like there's so much passion there. And I mean, just unpacking that response of how you gave back your time and your ideas to be able to create this project. But I mean, I'm hearing that there's the value immediately in being able to generalize these skills, is that therapy isn't a bubble. It's not about working with a therapist. It's about working with a community, finding peers, engaging, generalizing these skills. I hear about community connection, and that's lost. I mean, as you go through it, I feel the emotional toll of a family of how do I find a friend for my child, and feeling that you're lost and like you're not able to commit or give them what they need. It's emotional, and I can hear that. And I love the fact that you went out to build a tool. Now, how do parents figure out, what is the right peer for my child? Do I want to find somebody who's similar to them in diagnosis? Do I want to find somebody who has different skill sets, like what your son offered to that child? Is that all part of the selection and kind of working through these peer interactions of, you know what, I'd love to have somebody come and hang out with my child who could be that model versus I want somebody who can interact with them directly on their level. Do you get to choose?
You can choose. So something that we've been working on our brand, right? And what we want to represent, what our mission is. And so something I really want to do, we originally, this was created for parents and therapists or caretakers of children with special needs. But any parent of any child can use PeerKnect. They do not have to have any kind of diagnosis. So what we're doing as, the developers of this application is we're trying to model what being inclusive looks like. This is our community. This is a special needs or autism community, and we're inviting you in. So we would love to have those parents of the typically developing peers use the application because they're wonderful peer models, just like my son was that day. But also, it's okay to have that peer-to-peer interaction, even if they are at the same level. If there are two similar diagnoses, so a parent can, there's filters on the application, so they can search by diagnosis, they can search by gender, they can search by age, and they can search by location. And they can post a play date and say, I'm looking for a male with this diagnosis, so parents can pick and choose, but they can also just search for a play date near them, and then the play dates will show up and they can say, you know what, this is somebody who doesn't have a similar diagnosis. They're close in age. They might be a different gender. It doesn't matter. They're working, these are their skills, deficits, likes and dislikes. They're different from my child, but that's okay, right? Mm-hmm. So it's making those connections, because you never know what's actually going to work out and if these kids are going to be compatible, even if they have a similar diagnosis or no diagnosis. You just never know. So there are a lot of options for parents when they're looking to find a play date. And something you said just a minute ago about play dates and developing those skills. As a therapist, what we're doing with one-to-one therapy, we cannot always recreate what happens during a play date or during recess or during a birthday party, right? So we can have that one-to-one therapy. The child, we're going to have what's called stimulus control over the child, right? They know, okay, here's my therapist. I know what Miss Emily's expecting from me. I know how she's going to reinforce me. I know what I can earn. I know all that stuff. I know what we're going to work on. But the beauty is, you're talking about generalizing. We can actually generalize what we've learned in that one-to-one therapy to another environment, to those play dates, to recess, to the birthday parties, to the family get-togethers, if we actually have opportunities to go and engage in those environments. Mm-hmm. And that's what I feel like PeerKnect is going to do for therapists and for parents.
I would also imagine is that the flip side is true for the therapist, is that if they do attend some of these play dates, they're able to identify some gaps, some areas to be able to enhance for that child so they can contribute more to that environment that they want to be a part of, or that play date or that friendship that they're trying to build. But I mean, we talked about selection and how to go about, and that the app gives that option. But I guess I jumped the gun a little bit, but because maybe it's good to talk about from your perspective as an expert in these peer relationships. What are the benefits that the child's going to be achieving by having this community access, by being around other peers? What is it that they are going to gain from that?
So we use social skills to positively and effectively interact with one another, which helps us to develop those relationships, right, with other people, such as a friendship. So without that functional social skills development, individuals may experience peer rejection, social isolation, anxiety, which can lead to, for children, maybe academic deficits or more interfering behavior. We might observe that, right? And then as they grow older into adolescence and their teenage years, and then even into adulthood, it might cause a lot of issues as they grow up. So we know that children with autism and special needs may experience these adverse outcomes due to those impairments in their social interactions, because they do have a difficult time with cooperative play or imaginary play or, social cues and even communication. So with Playdates, we can assess them, just like you mentioned a moment ago, because how do we know what we need to work on unless we can assess them? And we can't assess them when it's that one-to-one interaction with just their therapist or their sibling or their parent. We actually need a peer to be able to assess them. And then we can say, okay, these are the skills that we really need to work on, and then we can target those skills. And then we have our foundation, and then we can start building on those skills. So we can promote those play skills and those friendships and develop those friendships, which in turn we're hoping will reduce the isolation and the anxiety and improve overall skills, quality of life, help with that independence so that as they grow, they can be more independent, right? They can build those long-lasting relationships that might go with them throughout a lifetime. Maybe that independence to find a job, to find partners, right? Those are all the things that as parents we hope for our children, but those are the benefits of having that peer-to-peer interaction time and time again. So we can assess, we can promote, they can develop the skills, and it will improve. Hopefully it will improve everybody's quality of life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Emily. I mean, you learn all these skills, and that you're building all this through therapy, all these just splinter skills, these skills that help you build upon one another, the foundation blocks, I guess is the way to look at it, with the goal of creating a social behavior around it. So how do I use it? How do I get out there and try these skills in that environment? Mm-hmm. And every family I've spoken with, that's their primary goal. So the fact that there is this gap of how do I even get into that environment? How do I find a friend? How do I find a peer? That now becomes the biggest issue. So when you're looking at being able to match these kids up, I mean, as a parent, we live in a world right now where safety is a concern. This is something that we're worried about. We need to make sure that we're entering into a play date in a safe situation with a safe environment, with safe people. How does PeerKnect, how do you enable that? How do you make sure that you're matching people up appropriately?
So that was a huge concern for me. I wanted to make sure that all of the families that used PeerKnect, all the therapists, anybody who was a subscriber would be safe. So what we did was we embedded an API, which basically is just communicating with another database, ID verification. So if you've ever deposited a check from your phone, or if you've ever had to have your ID verified using your driver's license, it's the same technology. And so basically, our application is communicating with Accurate Go's technology. So Accurate Go used to be Identity Mind, and they created that software where you can deposit checks, they verify everything, and so we collect the information, we send it to Accurate Go. They are using, it's called eDNA technology, and I think on our website there's a link to Accurate so people can find out more about it. But it's occurring in real time, and so what they're doing is they're looking at, is this person on the dark web? Do they have a throwaway email address? Do they have multiple aliases? Who are their known who are their known connections? It's really kind of doing a deep dive to make sure that there are no nefarious characters that are going to use the application. And that includes not just our single users, like our parents, our caretakers, our solo practitioners, maybe a nanny or a grandparent, but also businesses. So if a therapy practice wants to use PeerKnect, they have to go through ID verification. If a business wants to host, sensory-friendly events or business-hosted events, they have to go through it as well, because we want to make sure that it's a legitimate business, right? They're going to host an event. They're not trying to bring anybody in. So that's one feature to help protect our families, is the ID verification. So you know that the person that you're meeting with on the other side, they've been verified using Accurate Go. And then the other is we also embedded Google Places in the app. So, for me as a mom, I wouldn't want to go to somebody's house that I don't know for a play date, right? So I was like, what can we do to solve this issue? So we used Google Places. So basically, it uses geolocation, so where you're located, and it will come up with a list of suggested places. So libraries, parks, play centers, jump centers, anything that is affiliated with a child play center. And then it automatically, so you choose the one that you want, and it automatically populates within the application once you choose the location. And so you know that you're meeting in a public space, and that you don't have to go to somebody's house that you don't know. And the suggestions are all basically family related, children related, play related. It's not going to give you something that's not on that list, that's not related to having a play date in a safe space.
That assurity is super important for all the families, I'm sure. So, I mean, you've walked us through this roadmap. We've found the who. We found out, okay, so we can pick and choose. We can build our community. We found out the where. We can connect with them. We can use the Google Places to be able to get there and find that safe spot. We just talked about the why. I kind of want to go a little bit deeper into the how. Okay, so we have our peers together, and you're a clinician, and you've been able to facilitate these play dates, but let's talk as parents now. Mm-hmm. So taking off the clinician hat, I used PeerKnect to get to the right peer set. How do I do this now? Okay, I'm in an environment and my child is wanting to play, and now I got two kids, they're sitting there. What advice do you give to parents to be able to facilitate this appropriately and move that interaction along? Well, so the first thing that I would do, we have a chat feature within the app. So it would be Emily B, BCBA, I'm posting a play date. You can see my child profile, and I can create as many children profiles as I need to. So if I have 15 people on my caseload, I can have 15 profiles. If I'm the mother of two children, I can have two children profiles or two child profiles. And then you request to join my play date. I can look at your credentials too, and I can look at your child's profile. And then what I would do is say, oh, okay, they look pretty compatible. They have similar deficits and skills, likes and dislikes. They're around the same age, same gender, whatever it is, right? They're close enough that we can connect. So I can accept or not accept. So once I accept your play date request, we are able to chat within the application. And so I can text you and I can say, listen, this is our first play date, whatever it is I want to say to you. And I can ask you questions like, hey, I really want to work on sharing or taking turns, or my child loves Play-Doh. Do you mind if I bring Play-Doh and then we start to share Play-Doh, whatever it is. So we can start to chat and prepare for that play date. There are other things that parents can do if this is their first time. There are social stories. They can have conversations with their child. They can model. They can practice before. So if they do want to work on sharing or taking turns, they can practice that before they go to this play date. But the chat feature was one that I was like, I really want these parents or therapists or whomever it is that's connecting, I really want them to be able to communicate so that they can prepare for this play date. And, like a therapist can say, we are working on this specifically. We are working on greeting. So when we get there, I'm going to wait 5 seconds for my client to say, hello, how are you? What's your name? And if they don't, I'm going to give them a prompt, right? And the parents can do the same thing. And that way the other person knows, okay, I know why they're not saying anything for 5 seconds. They're just waiting for us to say something because this is actually a skill that they're working on. So I really thought that chatting was important before so that they can prepare whatever that means for them, whatever it is that they want to do to prepare, but it allows just for that communication piece. Oh, what a wonderful idea. I mean, that peer-to-peer coaching piece, especially giving and empowering parents to have a voice through the process and to help share that key information that's going to make it successful for their kids. That's crucial. But it also sounds like that first step to building community and that ability to take that one relationship and start expanding and building an entire village around your child. So as you're doing this and parents are meeting other parents, have you seen or do you have any stories about, parents coming out of their shell, feeling more empowered, feeling like they have people around them finally? I could imagine that has such a positive mental health benefit for the family at large. Do you have any stories about how that's affected people? Well, so we just we did our beta launch, and then just this month we're doing our nationwide launch. So we don't have users sharing any stories just yet because we're expanding, but I do have an experience that I want to share just with one of the kiddos that I worked with.
I was working with somebody Monday through Friday, spending, 2 hours a day with a client. And we were wanting to work on play skills and social skills. And so I was like, let's go to the library. And we went every Wednesday. And mom went with us. Of course, mom had to go with us. But she was able to watch. I was able to model for her. She was able to get involved. And we just so happened to meet a friend there that, for whatever reason, every Wednesday they were going. So they were 1 year younger than my client. My client was 5. This kiddo was 4. He was typically developing. And it was just like a perfect opportunity for us to engage in working on those social and play skills. And so in the beginning, my client, he did not want to make eye contact. He didn't really share. We were, not taking turns. But every Wednesday as we go and we would work on those skills, he just got more independent. I would just step back, and me and mom were just in awe as this was unfolding. And so about 2 months into us playing with this peer and meeting this peer every Wednesday, we show up and our peer friend is not there. But there were some other children in the library. We were looking everywhere. We're like, where's our friend? And so my client independently walked up to these other children that were in the library, and he said, hi, what's your name? And I was like, I'm done. This is the best day.
Such a breakthrough.
It was awesome, because 2 months prior, he wouldn't even engage with another child. But because we had that opportunity for 8 weeks, every Wednesday, and we were working on those skills, and I was modeling and I was prompting and allowing him to be independent, and the behavior and the skills emerged. And it was wonderful. So I was like, let's go get ice cream.
I think that the reward that child has now of being able to feel confidence of entering into social situations and the number of friends that he's going to have, I don't think there's ice cream in the world that's going to pay that same dividend.
Right. And the thing is, his mom was part of that whole process too. So she was learning so much during those interactions. Every day we were going in the community. And so that helped all of those skills generalize to when I wasn't around. So if she was going to a school event or another event somewhere, or even going to the grocery store, it was just perfect. So yeah.
That is a wonderful story to hear. And I mean, it makes me kind of want to push to say, all right, we need this app now. You said that you went through beta testing. When is this app going to be accessible to everybody? Is it around the corner? Are we going to see it soon?
No. So now it is available to everybody. We are live on both the Google and the Apple stores. And so if you're a single user, like a parent, solo practitioner, nanny, grandparent, any kind of caretaker, you would go to the app stores and you would download it and subscribe. There is a free version. So if parents don't want to post Playdates, but they want access to those business hosted events in their area, they can have access for free, and they don't have to go through all of the ID verification. They can just have access to some inclusive events in their area or training events in their area. But if they want to subscribe and post Playdates, search for Playdates, post birthday parties and Halloween parties, holiday parties, whatever it is that they want to do. So they go through the ID verification and they subscribe. And then businesses, so like a therapy practice or disability organization, or those businesses like a movie theater or a play center, if they want to promote their inclusive events, they would subscribe through our web platform, which is just, they go to our website, PeerKnect.com, and that's KNECT, not connect. So it's PeerKnect.com. And then there's a place to link to sign up, depending on your business account. So yeah, we are live and we are ready, for people to use the application.
And I suggest that people take a look at it, because I know how hard it is for families. I've seen families come in tears, not feeling like they have any support network or any way to build friendships for their children. And that's the most debilitating feeling in the world, is feeling like you don't have tools to be able to give back to your own child. So the fact that this is out there, I think that's absolutely wonderful. Do you have any words, just parting advice, just to encourage families along this process? Just because it is hard. It's very hard to build skills for any child to feel comfortable to enter into social situations. But also, when you're looking at children who are neurodiverse, is you have additional perspectives that maybe your peer doesn't hold, that you need to be able to kind of help them feel confident of being who they are in those situations and continuing to persevere. Do you have any suggestions for families on how to keep that drive?
Yeah, I would just say don't give up. With a therapist, it's easier because we will go, like I always encouraged community outings with all of my clients. Like we're going to the library, we're going to the park, we're going to a restaurant. We have to get out. We cannot stay isolated. I don't want them to feel isolated. And I always provided them that support. Like I'm going to be right here with you. I'm holding your hand. If my client engages in some type of interfering behavior that makes you feel uncomfortable, it's okay. We're going to work through this. It's okay because I'm here to support you. So finding people who are supportive that are like that, even if it's just a family member, if it is a therapist, if it's a friend, and just the more that you expose somebody to these environments, the more opportunities they have to develop these skills. That's why we created the parties and events feature for parents. So it's not necessarily about having a birthday party, right? It's about contriving an environment where the child will have an opportunity to host a birthday party and other children will have an opportunity to attend the birthday party so that they know what's expected at a birthday party, right? We bring a present, we eat cake, we play games, we take turns, and then we say goodbye when it's all over with. And the more times that they're exposed to these environments, or going into the community or going to a movie or having a play date, right? The more opportunities they have to learn and then acquire those skills. And then it becomes part of, their repertoire of knowledge, as we like to say it in the world of APA, right? And it really is about acquisition. And sometimes for these kiddos, it takes them a little bit longer. There might be kids out there that they have one experience and they learn it right away. And so they got it, right? But some kiddos, it takes them a little bit longer, and that's why we provide them that support. So something that I learned when I was training in this field is that success leads to more success. So just really give a lot of praise to those small wins. If you had one small win and the rest of the time the child was engaging in interfering behaviors or they had anxiety or whatever, it didn't go the way you planned. What was the win? Let's focus on that and let's say that's a success and let's just praise them for that success. And then the next time, hopefully we'll have more successes. So don't focus on being uncomfortable. Focus on, we're going to go out and engage. We're going to go out and we're going to have friends. We're going to go out and have fun. We're going to go enjoy ourselves, and allow your child to communicate too. Like if you go to a play date and they can only handle it for 5 minutes, they're like, after 5 minutes, I'm ready to go home. That's wonderful. Reinforce that. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for telling me you're ready to go. Go home. And then the next time, let's say, okay, we were there for 5 minutes. Let's try for 6 minutes this time. Use timers if you have to. I love using timers with my kiddos because it's building that endurance, right? So I would just say focus on the success. Just continue to encourage them and parents encourage themselves because I know how difficult this is. Some parents are doing this all alone, right? Their friends have dropped off. They might not have a support system. That's wonderful, but just keep encouraging themselves and celebrate those small wins. That's what I would say to them.
And you know what? I appreciate that you created a platform that allows people to continue to try, even if there is a struggle, is to have more and more opportunity. And I guess I would personally encourage is that those listeners out there who maybe have a neurotypically developing child, this is a wonderful platform for you to join. It's great to be a peer mentor at times and also to be exposed to diverse viewpoints. So it's a win-win if we can get the whole community involved. I know that I'm going to go out and get the app. So I think it's such a great product. And Emily, I appreciate your time and sharing your knowledge today, but also sharing what you've built for the community at large.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, this was a labor of love for both my business partner and myself because we really wanted to help people, just that community piece of it, right? And if COVID has taught us anything, isolation is not fun. Not being able to see your friends is not fun. But just imagine that going through that for a lifetime. And some of these families, that is a lifetime for them. And we want them to go out in the community. We want them to be able to go out and have fun and smile and enjoy themselves and make those friendships, even if it's two moms connecting because they're at a play date for their child. They might need that. They might just need like 15 minutes with another adult just to have a conversation. And so that was part of this is just making those connections, like you said. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for everybody to know about PeerKnect and starting to get connected.
Yeah, thanks again, Emily.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Autism Weekly. We hope you tune back in next week to learn more about autism in the real world. Autism Weekly is now found on all the major listening apps, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, and more. Subscribe to be notified when we post a new podcast. Autism Weekly is produced by ABS Kids. ABS Kids is proud to provide diagnostic assessments and ABA therapy to children with developmental delays like autism spectrum disorder. You can learn more about ABS Kids and the Autism Weekly podcast by visiting abskids.com. Thanks for tuning in. See you again next week.